Hello, welcome Bay community members. Tonight we are doing another parenting and mental health series, and I have a guest here live with me. This is my husband Nathaniel, and I'll explain in a second while he's present. And we're going to do something hopefully that everyone finds fun tonight. So let's get started. So tonight, like I said, parenting and mental health, there's a theme here. I promise there's a reason why we're using this fun background. Last time we talked about parenting as a couple, right? Whether or not you live in the same space with the other parent, you often still have to participate as a couple when parenting your kids. So we're going to talk a little bit more. Last week we did a little bit about getting to know yourself. So last week we did the disc. Um, this week we're going to get to know each other. And so I asked my husband just a few minutes ago if he wanted to play a little fun game of getting to know each other. And he said yes. So I'm very pleased that he's here tonight. So thank you. Uh, I wanted to first talk about why this is so important in connection with each other. And I wanted to first show a definition by one of my favorite authors, Brené Brown, and she's also a therapist, but she does most of her time now doing research, and she has incredible books that I've read, and I just love, love, love the research that she's come up with. But she talks about defining connection as the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued. We're going to talk a lot about that tonight. And they give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from their relationship. So it might not always feel like that, but the more you can do that with your parenting partner, the more your kids are going to learn from that, and the more they'll be able to learn how to do that within their own lives. So that will be important. So tonight, we're going to have a little bit of fun, and I was going to try and play a 1970s game show theme music. We'll try just for a second. Hopefully you can hear it. If not, oh yeah, it's not going to work. Oh, what a bummer. Okay. Anyway, we're going to play the newlywed game tonight, sort of. We're not really newlyweds, so it's kind of cheating. I had really good 1970s game show music all teed up, but it's not working. So just imagine it in your head for those of you that are old enough to remember, or go to the Game Show Network and you can listen to it on your own time. Okay, so the Gottman Institute, which is one of the most world-renowned groups that deals with couples and how couples connect. They have written books like this one, which is The Seven Principles of Making a Marriage Work. The Gottman Institute has also helped so many couples, and one of the Gottman's most famous kind of quotes, or what they're most famous for, is that Dr. Gottman is generally able, after seeing a couple interact with each other after maybe 30 to 40 minutes, can tell whether or not they're going to stay together, which is quite incredible. And he does this with about 80% accuracy. It's pretty phenomenal. There is a lot of research behind that. We're not going to quite go into that tonight. What we're going to go is we're going to jump over to the part that keeps people together. And part of that is connection, right? Being seen, feeling heard, feeling valued. Well, part of that is knowing each other. So my husband and I are going to play a little game. And this is something that I encourage you to do, not only with your partner, but you can also do this with your kids. Some of these questions won't be quite appropriate for your kids, but you can alter them so they work with your kids. So we're going to ask each other some questions, and not meant to be zingers, but they might be. And so this works for two reasons. I'm going to bring some of the questions up. There are two reasons why we do these questions. And these are things that I ask you to do, during dinner, maybe on date night could be fun. I ask these for two reasons. And one is because it gets a chance for your partner to feel seen and heard. Two, it also gives you a chance to gently correct somebody. So we all need practice with this, right? The last thing you want is to be in a situation where you're kind of stressed out, and then to jump into, oh, well, honey, yeah, you're already emotionally tied, and so then you're maybe not going to have the best response possible. So without further ado, honey, do you want to pick a question to ask me first, or you want me to ask you?
Who are my two closest friends?
Oh my God, that was so not wanting you to ask me that. Okay. Well, I would have a very different answer 10 years ago.
Today.
Today,
Oh, hi, Bentley.
oh, our dog's gonna join in the fun. Apparently, she's gonna answer these questions for us. Anyway, so, oh, two closest friends. See, I need a timer for this. I would probably say Jay is one of your closer friends. I would say I would be one of your closer friends, but usually we say, um, the other person I would say is probably Chris from work.
Yeah.
That works?
Yeah.
Okay. This could be kind of nerve-wracking, but I was even trying to think of who my two closest friends were, and I wasn't even sure. Okay. Um, okay, I'm gonna ask you one I feel like is a loaded question, but I'm gonna go with what do I like to do to unwind?
I would say you like to have a glass of wine with your friend Kim.
Lots of friends. That works too.
Wine with your friend Kim, and doing something active, like working out.
See, I really need the game show sounds because that would have been like a ding, 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 ding. Yeah, I think those are great answers. Okay, so we did two of them. You can see how this works. I'm gonna ask, I'm gonna have him ask me another one, and I'm gonna get it wrong because we want to kind of, or maybe you, maybe I should ask you, and I'm gonna gently correct you.
Sure.
Okay. Where is my favorite vacation spot?
Hmm. I would say it's probably Hawaii.
Oh, that's a good answer. That's where we met, by the way. So that's a really good answer. Kind of, he's pulling on the nostalgia string there. Well, honey, that's such a good answer. And because we met there, it does hold a really near and dear spot in my heart. Um, However, I would say my favorite place to vacation is a snowy mountain. Again, I'm not really sure, but I'm doing this so that you can see how to gently, let someone know. So you can see how first I acknowledged his answer, right? And told him why it was a really good answer. And he's actually probably right. Um, Although we haven't been there in a really long time. It's good to acknowledge that the person tried. And I've done this with so many couples, and some people do it really well. Apparently, Bentley wants to answer the question too.
Yes.
She has a question to make on the vacation spot. She would like to go to the best dog park. Um, okay, so you want to be able to do it in a way that's loving, right? Because the whole point of this is to have fun with it and to get to know each other better. And you want to do this. I really don't know what Bentley wants right now. You want to do this with each other as a couple, but you can also do this with your kids. A lot of times we forget that our kids can have opinions, especially when they're a little bit younger. But once they're school age, they might say they have a favorite vacation spot, and it might kind of surprise you. It might be a place they learned about at school, or it might be a place you've already been. You might have been planning this elaborate vacation, and all they wanted to do is, go to Rehoboth Beach or something that's, close by and not that elaborate, or to the local carnival or something. So this adds connection. And one thing that Gottman says is that regardless, sorry for the whining dog, regardless of how long you've been together, how well you think you know each other, constant reconnecting is really important. And some couples do this without even recognizing it or realizing it, and others don't. And the ones that don't, they tend to lose connection and then over time lose affection and some other things that are really essential to keep that relationship strong. So part of this is to model the behavior, right, of showing connection. And this will teach your kids how to connect with others, right? So, okay, so we're going to do another. So the first ones were kind of zingers a little bit, trying to see if we know each other. The next ones are a little bit different. Now we're going to go into an exploratory type questions. And this can be, again, fun to do this. The exploratory ones are much more the type of ones that would be fun to do at a dinner table. These are also really fun ones to model with your kids, because then they can use them when they're in situations where they might not know how to strike up a conversation. So maybe with grandparents or with relatives they don't see very often. Bentley really wants to play this game tonight. So some of the exploratory questions that you can ask is, and I will, I do not know what's going on there. I'm going to ask, or do you want to ask first? You can ask first this time. You can ask me an exploratory question.
What was my favorite thing to do at recess?
What was your favorite thing to do at recess? I don't know. I'm gonna, but it depends on how old you were at recess. Because I feel like when you
Age.
recess age, yes, but I feel like when you were little, I'm gonna say playing sports.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and so you can ask these as, you know, trying to see if your partner knows your answers, or what I was going to do is just ask.
I'm supposed to ask you.
That's okay.
What's your favorite?
Okay, see, we clearly didn't practice. What was your favorite toy as a
child? As a little kid, I had a teddy bear, best bear.
Okay.
I took him.
That's cute. Okay. And see, this is fun because sometimes as you see people, and like I said, I've done this with couples, as you talk through it, you kind of remember stuff yourself. And that's fun too. This is all about you getting to know yourself better as a parent so that you can do a better job of modeling good behavior with your kids, right? What did you just recognize? I feel like you just had to. Oh, it's okay. Anyway, so these are exploratory ones. As you can imagine, these can be really fun questions to ask a grandparent. And something else that this becomes really good for, if you are one of those sandwich parents where you're taking care of older, you know, you're taking care of parents and you're also taking care of your kids. Oftentimes we get in this mode of kind of telling everyone what to do, and the discussions are all very businesslike. They're all about the calendar and medical appointments and, you know, sports or whatever, you know, extracurricular activities. And you don't get a chance to just get to know these people. And sometimes you forget that we don't know these questions about our parents necessarily. So giving, you know, having a moment and asking your parents what was their favorite toy as a child could be a really fun question. And you teach your kids how to do this, they suddenly have a much better time with grandparents that are much older than them, and can hear a story that is intriguing to them. So there's exploratory questions you can ask that will help create connection. Bentley, what was your favorite toy as a child? Yes, she has a dragon that she likes. Okay. So then we go on to questions that are a little more personal and might take a little bit more self-awareness. However, that doesn't mean don't ask your kids. I just tried this tonight a little bit with some other questions that are more comforting and emotional in nature. Of course, they get a lot of practice with me, given what I do for a living. So I did ask the question to my kids about, you know, what makes you feel loved? And I gave them a few different answers to choose from. So with kids, sometimes you might have to give them multiple choice to help them a little. These can be really powerful because then this helps you know how to soothe the people that you're closest with. A story I love to tell is a story about my husband and I. I'm not really sure what's going to soothe Bentley right now. So was a time where I realized I had to explain to Fan when I get really feisty and really fired up and just frustrated, that a very counterintuitive thing to do with me is actually to hug me and to squeeze. And there's a whole study, it's called the Happiness Project, where they tell you to hug and hold for 6 seconds. That's the limit. You have to, or the minimum, that kind of creates this chemical release that are the chemicals that are released when a baby's held by their parents, things like that, that create those happy chemicals in our body. So that was something that he learned, and now he does it very well. And as I know some of you have heard before, my son overheard us having this discussion. And now anytime I'm the slightest bit irritable, he immediately goes and hugs me. And it's the cutest thing. And it's wonderful. It really does make me feel loved. And it immediately calms me down because I realize I'm acting like a jerk in front of my kid. And that's a really sweet way to calm down from that. Okay. So these are things you want to learn about in terms of how to soothe and comfort. Sometimes we think we know, but we always lead, if we're not sure, we always lead with what we like best, right? So, honey, when you're sad, what most comforts you?
Oh man, I was gonna ask you that. Probably hugs.
Hugs.
Yeah.
Aww.
I'm not sad now, but I'll take a
I know, but I love. Okay. Okay, you can pick one for me.
I'm gonna ask you the same one. When you're sad, what comforts you most?
Oh, sad, I would say hugs also. I think when I'm sad. Now, if you went to the angry one, that also was the one that would be counterintuitive for me. Hugs also when I'm angry. You just kind of have to, but you have to hold on because I'm going to fight back. Okay, so you can see how these would be good. These are great questions to ask your kids because oftentimes, I mean, we actually did this sort of at the dinner table tonight, and we had a hunch. We have our youngest daughter is a snuggler. So I knew that was going to be, she was kind of going to lead with this, like, yeah, I feel the most loved when like I'm getting hugs. But then, to figure out, it was kind of cute. I think our son realized that acts of service are a big deal, which I'm going to talk about the love languages in a second. And so then he just started doing that. Like he was doing acts of service. And I think he felt really proud of himself that he was showing us that he loved us by, taking the dishes to the sink. And it was really cute to watch that unfold, and had no idea how that was going to turn out. So again, you can model this by answering the questions in front of your kids. You can do this on date night on your own, but play around with it. And there are tons more questions. If you want more questions, you can reach out to me, post something on Facebook. I have tons more questions that can be asked. But be creative with it. Ask your own questions. They don't have to be ones I've come up with. Be curious about your partner and about your kids. Okay. So one way we can do this is there is a book called The 5 Love Languages, written by Gary Chapman. Most people have heard about this book before. And I'm going to simplify it so you don't have to read the book. But the book is a pretty easy read. There are 5 love languages, and it works not only for adults, but it can work for kids too. You might have to do a little bit of explaining, but they'll get it. I mean, most of this is in pretty simple terms. So the first one, words of affirmation, that's exactly what it sounds like. Using words to tell someone you care about them. Those are the I love yous. I'm proud of you. I want to be with you. Yeah, you're so good at this. You're so beautiful. You're so handsome. All those things, right? Words of affirmation. Quality time. Quality time, when you're talking about that, that's one that sometimes we have to make sure as parents and just in general in Western culture. Quality time means focusing on the person you're with. So right now, this probably isn't quality time because I'm doing something for work now, and he's here with me. And even though we're getting to spend time together, probably not the best quality time we could have, right? Because we're kind of multitasking in this situation. However, quality time, one-on-one or small groups, really focusing on the other person, hearing them, doing something that they may want to do. And I've heard this before, even if it's just for 5 minutes, 5 minutes of quality time is better than 30 minutes of interrupted multitasking time. And someone that really appreciates quality time will see the difference and feel the difference. Receiving gifts. For some people, that's their love language, and that's okay. That doesn't mean you're greedy or materialistic. Please don't think of it that way. Sometimes people really like that. the first thing, kind of silly thing that came to mind, animals, oftentimes cats like to give us gifts. Like if they're hunters, they go out and they hunt and they drop a gift. We might not really like the gift of a dead animal left on our, front porch. And I've heard this from several of my clients, but they're dropping off a gift. Maybe it could also be, I guess, an act of service. Anyway, but receiving a gift. So what that's just going to mean is being thoughtful and something that you give to that person. It doesn't always have to be extravagant or big, right? Even little things can mean a lot. And I'm going to go into each one and how this relates to your kids. Acts of service, that again is exactly what it sounds like. That means, doing something for that person. It might mean cleaning their car. It might mean stopping by their work and bringing them food. It could be any number of things. You'll have to know your person best to understand what that means, but that's what an act of service is. And then finally, physical touch, exactly what it sounds like. Hugs, kisses, all of those things. Even just, doing this for someone that physical touch is important to them, or just gently touching their hand when you're in a room somewhere means a lot to someone where physical touch is their primary love language. So if you're interested in love languages and you want to go into more detail, there is a quiz online, and I'm going to have to post it because it would not let me post the website, but I will post it on Facebook after this, and you can go and take it and have some fun with that. And you can have your kids take it too. So let's go into a little more detail. So what is the action of each love language? Well, if the love language is physical touch, that means your kids might need more snuggles and cuddles. Actually, for little kids where language really isn't a thing yet, and acts of service isn't, that's just part of them surviving. Physical touch is something, I think a doctor told us this once, that physical touch for small, infants and toddlers is as needed for them as food. And I know when I heard that, it completely changed my perspective about how I dealt with my infant and my toddlers, because I'm not a physical touch person. So, that really changed the way I interacted with them. So that was a huge gift from that doctor. I bet you can guess the rest. I mean, you want to take a stab at what the other love languages are on here? Which one's which?
So playing board games, sports hikes, coloring is quality time.
Good job.
Gifts on special occasions is receiving gifts. Making their favorite meal is an act of service.
Very good.
And spoken words. It's the other.
Yep. Words of affirmation. Awesome. Well done. He's listening. See, he didn't know he was going to get quizzed too. So he's really going above and beyond. So action wise, these are things you can do. So someone where words of affirmation or something. I've done this for my kids before. My mom used to do this for me. She would write little notes on my lunch bag, or I write little notes on random dates in my kids' planners. I have no idea if they read them, but it's just something cute and little that costs nothing, that you can do that just shows your child that you love them. Okay, so that's kind of going back to the communication. So how do you communicate these love languages to either your partner or your kids? So for someone that is physical touch, sometimes the communication is a little bit harder, but it can be hugging them, of course, or putting, a hand on their shoulder to let them know you're there. If things are going well, it can be things like smiling at them, thumbs up, open arms, open hands. Those are all really positive ways to communicate with someone where physical touch is something that they want. For someone that is, gift giving is their love language, just really being certain that you remember something that they wanted and getting it for them. So kind of tuning into things that they talk about, because remember, that's their love language. So they're dropping hints for you. And oftentimes we do that, with each other, because we're trying to give the person we're with those signals that we need to feel affection. And so trying to tune into that, even when it's not your love language, I think, parents around Christmas time really hone in on this, and we can be pretty good at it. And we also learn when we're not, because then we get to deal with the disappointment. Um, Words of affirmation, compliments, encouragement, pep talks, just anytime if you think that, your child walks down and they look really well dressed. Bentley's throwing lots of words of affirmation right now. She just doesn't speak English. So that quality time, quiet, private time, undivided attention. That's going to be really important. And then for the acts of service, asking when you're communicating with someone that's their love language, asking them, how can I help you when they're doing something, or expressing, letting them know this is what I did for you. I had a parent that acts of service was a really big love language. So I very early on learned when my father would go away for trips and come home, I was taught to like tell him, these are all the things we did for you, Daddy, while you were gone. And it became ingrained. And then I learned later when I was with a partner that, that was not his top love language. He's like, why are you telling me all these things? Right. And I'm like, I love you. I did all these things for you. And he's like, I don't need to hear this. Just give me a hug. Is that fair? um, Okay, so things to avoid with these love languages, which I think is really important. So, well, you tell me with love languages, physical touch, things to avoid. I mean, this is what I put up here. Is that resonate? Yeah. So definitely. Yeah. With physical touch, when that's their love language, using physical touch as a threatening or as a punishment is just heartbreaking for them, right? Exactly the same where words of affirmation for someone, if you call them a nasty name or say something that's inappropriate and that's their love language, that's going to hurt them a lot more than it would for someone that's not their love language. So same thing with gift giving, right? If that's their love language and you forget an anniversary, a birthday, a special occasion. So these are the kids that if they performed in the chorus, you bring them flowers. That means a lot to that kid, right? Or you get them a card or maybe little chocolates or their favorite something because they did this performance. That's going to mean a lot to them. Okay. That's the kid that if they get really good grades, you go out and get something with them. That won't mean as much. It still might mean something to a kid where that's not their primary love language. And just as a reminder, we all have some of, more than one. There's just one that's our primary, and there's another one that we might feel also. So for people that quality time's their love language, taking them to big parties or going to big groups, maybe your child's love language is quality time, and you take them to like Jump Zone. It's amazing, but if that's the only place you ever go, they will feel sort of connected. They'll feel like it's sort of cool, but if you're just sitting there checking your phone while they're jumping around, they're going to be the kid that's going to be like, Mommy, Daddy, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. I did this. They're going to be trying to draw you into this one-on-one interaction in this big group setting. It's going to feel exhausting for you. It's going to feel exhausting for them. It's not going to really achieve the goal that you're looking for that type of love language kid. And then for the acts of service, if you make a promise to a kid that's an act of service kid, I 100% did this. I told my son if he got certain grades that he would get something, and it happened to be a time when Dan was out of the country and I was like single parenting and I was frazzled and I did not honor my promise right away. Boy, did I find out about it. I mean, he was so bummed because he did it, right? He achieved the grades that he was, and I did not give him the promise right away. And I think we still hear about that particular instance, and that was like 3 or 4 years ago now. So don't be good on your promises. Do not forget them. So that means also don't overcommit. Don't promise a bunch of things and not hone in on them. Okay, so that was what I wanted to go over tonight. Again, we're going to keep going through different ways to get to know yourself so that you can be a better parent. And this is a way that you can get to know your child better. This will work with pretty much any child that's school age and up, that you can figure these things out with them and be creative with and model. You can model these behaviors for even younger than school age children between each other, but you can start asking them these questions and figuring out with them when they become about school age. So that is what I had tonight. We're going to keep trying to dive in and learn more about ourselves so we can be better parents, and we'll continue down this path for the next month or so. I wanted to leave it open for any questions. Do you have any questions for me, honey? I'm not putting you on the spot, but you don't have to. Well, I wanted to say thank you. Thank you so much for doing this. This must have felt really silly, but you were a great sport and I really appreciate it. And I love you. Thank you so much for doing this. Bay Community, and that's all we have tonight. I would thank Bentley, but now she's asleep. So that's about typical for her, as many of you know. So have a great night. Please stay warm. It's cold out there. Stay safe. And I will see you all again next week. Have a great night, Bay Community.